Hello, my name is Roy Simpson, and I am the Dungeon Master. And here I am, just showcasing the next iteration of the Glyphs Monster Maker, the spreadsheet that I'm building. I'm hoping that he updates the app, the web app, because this is kind of a stopgap in the meantime. But I'm going to showcase converting a standard creature from 5e over to Glyphs using this spreadsheet, which I have not released yet, but I'm just going through. I need to get some advice on some things, and I'd like some people to respond. If you guys want to respond, that'd be awesome. So what I'm going to do is make an Ice Devil Spear variant, and this is for a combat with a 12th level party. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the combat level here as 12. And by the way, it's preset to where I just click a button. It would clear out all the values in here and reset them if I ever make a mistake or whatever, or I want to start a new conversion to a different creature. So that's just a heads up. And the combat rank, they're supposed to face him one-on-one. He's supposed to be kind of not the big boss, but still, I'm going to make him a Paragon. Why not? There's 5 of the players, or 5 party members. And his combat role will be I'm guessing a striker. I think I want him to be a striker. Excuse me. And now going through, last video I actually made very special exceptions for statistics here, but I'm going to go through this and actually make these stats align with the ability modifiers. Okay, those are set in there. You can see they kind of align very nicely with these right here. I could make them slightly different just to make them kind of more interesting. But again, I want to keep them kind of in the range that Glyphs recommends. Again, you could change these if you want. They do affect combat stats though, and saving throws. So I'm trying to be as aligned to Glyphs as possible to test out his system. The next thing I'm going to do is choose 3 trained saving throws. And in this, it will say, be sure to pick enough trained saving throws. And that will disappear once you do have the trained saving throws correctly picked. So I'm going to go ahead and do Dex, Con, and Charisma because, well, that aligns pretty much with this guy right here. So I'll go ahead and do Dex, Con, and Charisma. Not the most popular saving throws, but whatever. And if you scroll over to the right here, you'll see that little note of make sure you pick 3 saving throws is gone. Also, you'll notice here, it does state what the current proficiency bonus is based upon your selection so far. It also includes the initiative bonus, the initiative bonus there, and it includes the dexterity modifier. It includes the AC and the hit points. One thing you should note here is that the hit points, I think for this creature should be around 500, but notice it says 494. That's for something very special I'll talk about in a moment. It has trained saving throws, the attack that gets added to an ability modifier, and of course your save DC for targets that you also add an ability modifier to, your average per round damage, and the challenge rating so far for the creature. If this choice or combination of combat rank and combat role comes with skills, it would say that right here. If there's some type of speed adjustment, it would say that right there. All right, so going down here, I'm going to name this bad boy, and this is actually a named bad guy in my campaign, but still I'm going to go ahead and call it an Ice Devil Spear variant for now, even though I could actually do the full name. And just going along with the 5e here, it's a large fiend, a devil. So let's go ahead and select those. It's a large fiend and it's a devil. I'm just going to type that in, devil. Except I don't like the double capital letters. And then as far as alignments, let's see. The alignment for this is lawful evil. And so I'll just do that. Now you could see again in the stat block over on the left, the speed for the Ice Devil's 40. I'll just enter that in. It says off to the right here, by the way, true speeds, because again, there are certain combinations of combat rank and roll, as I recall, that will adjust the true speeds accordingly, and that will do that for me automatically in the background. You don't need to type in feet here. It'll automatically apply them in the stat block, which by the way is over here under this tab. If I click clean, it will then shorten up the block and list all the pertinent information that I've listed so far. You can see it does say hit points 500 right now, but as I go through, it'll actually fix that, I'm assuming. All right, moving forward. It says 500 there as well. Oh, it's because I changed the con, I think. No, it's because I changed the size of the creature. That's kind of weird. I'm sure there's a reason for that in the background that I've coded in for some oddity. I'm not 100% sure, and I don't really care right now. So off I go. Further into this, let's see. As far as senses, they have blind sight, 60 feet, dark vision 120, and nothing else really for that. As far as skills, you won't see any here. However, Ice Devils are kind of leaders and intimidators within their ranks. So I'm going to give this Ice Devil Persuasion and also Intimidation. I just think that kind of fits with an Ice Devil. You can not have that, but it's a nice thing if you're going to go ahead and go through and make your own bad guy based on the bad guys in the 5e. It's a good idea to actually put your spin on it, right? Going down here, now we get to the damage vulnerabilities and resistances and immunities. Technically, Ice Devils are actually immune to fire, but I don't want this guy to be immune to fire because his name involves ice. I want him to actually be vulnerable to fire. I don't mind. I don't mind if my party uses fire against him. That's totally okay. As far as damage resistances, you can see they're resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. And that is actually a devil feature. Actually, technically the immunity to fire is also a devil feature, but I just, again, like a little bit of more realism in my fantasy game, if that makes sense at all. And let's see, cold and poison are what they're immune to. I might go through and think about maybe other things here, but nothing else really makes sense to make them immune or resistant to. As far as condition immunities, you can see right down here, they're immune to poison. I like to slap on here for no reason that they're immune to charm as well, mainly because, one, they're powerhouses. Two, they're leaders. They're very charismatic leaders within their ranks. So I really don't like the possibility of them being charmed. I just don't like it at all. So I'm making them immune to charmed. I know offhand that they speak Infernal and they have telepathy 120 feet. I'm not even looking at the stat block. Let me see if that's true. Infernal telepathy 120. Yep. And then possessions, the armor tag. If you take a look at the armor tag right here, natural armor. So we're almost done with the full conversion here, natural armor. And when I say the full conversion, I really don't mean the full conversion because the reality is if you take a look at the stat block at this point, and remember, always click on clean, you'll see that it is filling out, but it doesn't have any of this creature's features, nor does it have any of this creature's attacks because I haven't filled any of those in. While I'm here though, I did mention that the hit points for this creature were supposed to be, I think it was 500. I can't remember. You look it up in the table what a combat level 12 Paragon versus 5 PCs would, or threat 5, how many hit points that creature would have. If it's not 500, here's the reason why. Because I want to have hit dice associated with my creatures. And so this is going to ballpark to basically what the actual hit dice are going to be. Actually, let me verify that. Okay, so you can see it right here. It actually does align perfectly in this specific instance. However, there are times when it won't. It might be off by maximum 4 hit points, maybe 5, just depends on the hit dice level of the creature. But the reason why is as follows. I want my bad guys to have hit dice, mainly because they could have features that reduce the number of hit dice of their opponents. So why couldn't their opponents have features that reduce the hit dice of this creature? Sometimes hit dice are important. I don't know when offhand for bad guys, but if it is the case, I don't want to be stuck there thinking, how many hit dice does this guy probably have? So I have it mathematically figured out, including his constitution modifier. So he is a hit dice 40 creature, and 40 times that 7 on his con mod is 280. That's why he has additional 280 hit points right there. All right, that's enough. Let's go ahead and get some of these features in there. If you look at the Make a Monster tab, it does say at this point, automatic features this creature should have: the Paragon Power, Paragon Defense, and Brutal. So let's go to the Features tab and select those features, and then whatever other features we need to get. So I go over to the Features tab, and I also kind of hit a tab in the background because that's unnecessary for you guys to see. And I'll go down to the Paragon Defense, and I'll put a little check mark there, and Paragon Power. Notice these already say twice per long rest and 4 per round. Those are aligned to the creature's combat level and combat rank, all that fun stuff. So it automatically computes in the background and sets that for me. If you want to know more details about it, you can scroll to the right. And because of the screen size that I'm currently on right now, you can't really see, let me see if I can get this going. Yeah, you can't really see the entire phrasing there, but that is the phrasing that's used in Giphy Glyphs about the Paragon Power and Paragon Defense. All right, the other one that I needed was Brutal, I think. So I'm scrolling up here and I'm looking for Brutal. It's alphabetical order almost. Notice Frenzy Attacks at the top for a very special reason. So Brutal, where are you, Brutal? Right there. You also notice I have things bolded. That just means I have the coding completed on those. So that's a little aside that probably nobody cares about. Let's see, going back to the stat block, clicking on clean, you could see those features are now in there. One thing I do want to do with the next iteration of this is to have a section that says features and a section that says free and a section that says actions and then bonus actions and reactions. Some of those are already in here. You'll see them in a moment. Now going over to the creature on the left-hand side, you can see Devil's Sight and Magic Resistance. It also has that, so I'm just going to throw those features on there. So go down to Devil's Sight and Magic Resistance. If you want to check to see if they're in the stat block, click on clean, and there you go. Again, I'd like to segment these out into free and, well, maybe I should say features and then free, because that would be just a little bit more organized. Now let's get into his attack actions, or his actions in general. I've given up on the idea of multi-attack. That's why I have Frenzy. So I'm going to go over to features here, and I'm just going to give him Frenzy, which normally everything's in alphabetical order except for Frenzy, because I want that to be at the top of my actions list, and it will only list things the way I have them listed here. So I just want that to be alphabetically, or to be in that order where Frenzy Attack is listed first. Now notice also in Frenzy Attack it says you can take 3 of any single target common actions. That will change just based upon combat level. All right, so going back to features, let's see, he's got an Ice Spear, which I don't have an Ice Spear action. Instead, I just have a melee weapon attack. So I'm going to go ahead and go to melee weapon attack. You can see it right there. I put a check mark here, but this is kind of important for me to note. It's a combat roll feature. It's attack action. It takes an action. It's common. Now, I know if you look over at this Ice Spear, you might say, no, that's not common because it does something more than just damage. I'm going to have that extra damage be a free action in a moment. But one thing I want to mention here is when you select like a common attack action, you can assign it an ability modifier. In this case, I'm assigning it the strength modifier. Assign it % damage. In this case, I want it to do 100% damage, and a damage die. So I'm just doing a D8 just because I want to. It's piercing. That's the variant type of damage it does. And you'll see right here that it autofills all this and creates the dice, the 9d8 plus 3, which comes out to 43 points of damage on average. One thing that was really hard for me to deal with was that plus 3. If I'm using my strength, or if this creature's using his strength, he should have much higher bonus to damage at the end of that die roll. But the reality is it's folded into the dice. So don't really sweat that. That's how Giphy Glyphs does it. So I'm just going to stick with that as well. Let's see what else. The Ice Spear, like I said, does extra stuff. That extra stuff I called a Chilling Strike. And you can see if I'll actually hop over here. It's It's a combat roll feature, attack action. Doesn't have an activation time. Normally I would call that free. I just haven't coded that in. It's rare, which is why it's a once per day. I do have on this, I set it for recovery since he's an elite, or I'm sorry, a paragon. And his recovery is going to happen when he's bloodied or enraged. I set the ability modifier, that is the save mod, for Constitution, and it fills in everything else based upon that. So it automatically fills in what the actual DC is and all that other fun stuff. All right. Let's see. The other stuff is just bites, claws, and tails. And those I have as standard things or standard actions up here. So you'll see a bite in here somewhere right there. And just because I want to, I'm going to show you that's the same thing as a weapon attack. You go over here. If you want to use dexterity, you type dex. I want it to do 100%. I want it to be a D6 because it matches with the creature on our left. It's piercing. Yeah. And there's the stat block or the stuff that's going to print out in the stat block. And I'll do the same thing for claws. Now, as you can see, this list is a very long list of features. There's just no way around it. I try to think about how I could reduce the size of that list, but because a lot of things have different names, but do the same exact things. However, I really couldn't get around to it. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. Looking at the Ice Devil, is there anything else I need there? Well, that Wall of Ice feature is going to be a manual entry thing. It is a rare feature. If you look it up in Giphy Glyphs and try to build it, it will be rare. But that's such a unique action. I didn't want to clutter this table with a bunch of unique actions. So I'm going to go to the stat block here and I'm going to click on clean, and you'll see now the stat block is pretty replete, right? It's got a lot of stuff in there. And so now I'm ready to paste this in to my improved initiative combat tracker. And I will obviously, once I paste it there, I'll have to make modifications to the language. That's the most important part at the end of all this, is that you still have to do some modifications on your own. Not a ton though. So I'll go over to the JSON tab. I keep pronouncing that as if it were French. JSON tab. Okay. Anyway, on that, there's a copy and paste area right there. So I'm going to Control-C copy. I'll go to improved initiative right here. And actually, I'm going to maximize that. And this was the creature. That's actually its name in my game. Because I run the Shackled City. I'm going to click on that bad boy. You can see it right there. I will go ahead and click edit. This would be the same thing you do if you just want to add this if you just want to create a new creature. So you just create a new creature, click on JSON and Control-A, Control-V, paste that bad boy in there. I'll click save. And now I'm going to go ahead, turn them off, turn them back on so you can see this is how it pastes in. There you go. Everything's in there beautifully. And the only thing you really have to do at this point, I'm assuming obviously that you would be using improved initiative, which is a huge assumption. You probably are not. And if you're not, you could still use that JSON export. You might have to modify it somehow, but you could do that. But at this point, I would go to edit and then I would scroll down and make the changes I need to make for those minor attack actions. For example, with the Ice Devil, every time he strikes with either a bite, a claw, a tail, which I'm going to drag this up because I want this kind of there for some reason, he does damage that's ice or cold damage. So I'm going to massage these numbers a little bit. And if you're looking at this and you're like, okay, well, if I want that to be half damage, so I want this to be not 43, but 21 or 22, and then plus some amount of cold damage, you could easily compute the damage dice necessary by just going back over to this bad boy right here, clicking on features and going to any of your attack actions that you have set at 100%. I'm just going to go to the bite because it's at the top. There you go. And instead of 100%, I'm going to set it to, actually, let's set it to, 50%. Let's just do 50%. And you can see it's a flat 6d6 if I do 50%. Now 6d6, what is that? 3 times 7 is 21 points. And so divide that 66 for the bite damage, and then maybe 66 for cold. Or if you don't want it at 50%, maybe you want the damage from his bite attack to be 25% of the overall damage. Then there's 3d6. I'll show you that. Go over here and I'll just say the bite is 3d6. And of course, it's not of course, but you'll have to actually compute out the average damage from that. That is 10 points. And then plus, and then the other 75% will be cold damage, and that's 96 plus 1. So I'll just go ahead and type that in here. The piercing damage plus, and I'll type it in plus parentheses 96 plus 1 cold damage. And again, you do have to compute the average on your own. So that's 8 divided by 2 is 4 times 7 is 28 plus 3 is 32 points. Okay, so if you add those two up, that's 42. The average should be around 43. That's exactly right. And so now I can go through and just copy and paste that. Copy that and paste that into each of his attacks. Oops, except that was a D4 right there. So I'm going to copy and paste that into his tail attack. And then I can, if I want everything to be in terms of D4s, I'll go ahead and go back and actually I'll still paste it here like this, but I'm going to change this to some type of D4. We'll find out in a moment. So going back here, I'm going to change this to D4 and I want the 25%. So that's 4d4 damage. And let's see, that's 10 points. It's still 10 points. Yeah. So there you go. Now to do his, he only has one other thing. Two things I have to worry about. One would be his ice spear, and it's a melee weapon attack, yada, yada, yada. Again, this guy right here, I want 25% of the damage to be the physical damage. Maybe, no, this time I'm going to do 50-50. Let's do 50-50 on this one. So I'm just going to go D8. Again, notice I'm typing in the bite section because I just want the die damage here. So D8, and I'll just do 50-50. So let's see. Ignore the 43 there. That 43 is set always at 100%. I haven't fixed that, but 48 plus 4 will be the damage die roll. So 48 plus 4, piercing, and then plus 48 plus 4. I'll figure out the average in a moment. Nobody freak out. Cold damage. And let's see, 48, that's 2 times 9, 18, 22. Oops, wrong spot for it though. So you can see that's roughly in the ballpark of 43 points of damage in a round. I'll put it up here. Now these are all common attacks, and that's the one thing I don't know how to kind of put in here. I could put in parentheses here, ice spear common, bite common, claw common, tail common, but I'm not. What are you gonna do about it? I'm gonna click save really quickly, just because I want to see how this looks, and it is looking really sexy. Very nice, right? The other thing I want to put in here is his wall of ice. Then that wall of ice attack action, I'm pretty much just going to copy and paste into this from the 5e stat block. And I've copied it, and I'm just going to go over here and edit and add this down here. And I'll paste here. And let's see, grab this bad boy right here. Now, it is not a recharge because it's a rare feature for this bad guy. So it's going to be a recovery, a once per day ability. It's kind of sad, but that's just how it is. That, you know, his special abilities get reduced to a once per day, kind of like the Chilling Strike, right? It turned out that right there, that Chilling Strike is a recovery, or sorry, a rare feature, according to Giphy which means that it reduces the efficacy of this creature's ice spear attack. So it can't every single round, multiple times. It cannot effectively slow a creature, which you might think really reduces its power level. But remember what we're doing. We're increasing its hit points. It's going to last a lot longer in the combat, so it's okay. It's also going to critical on a 19 and a 20. It also has Paragon Power and Paragon Defense. So there are many other things going on here. And you could use Paragon Power maybe to recharge that Chilling Strike, or maybe his Wall of Ice. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look at that. The one thing I want to change about this is I want to make sure that this damage here matches his exact per round damage. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to the bad boy right here. I'll change this to a D6 because remember that's what the Wall of Ice was doing, and I want it to be 100% damage. So I can see it's going to be a 12d6 plus 1. Let me go back here. But now that I said that, I just reminded myself that when building this rare feature, according to Giphy text, this cannot do 100% damage. Let's discuss why. First of all, it's going to affect an area. That's critical for this discussion. It's going to be like a circle or a ring, more like a ring, honestly, because it's a wall. So it can be flat too, a flat ring. Why not? But that doesn't change anything about the effect points. That's what they're called. Took me a moment to think about those. And it's not dooming. It's not delayed. So let's talk about the effects of this. I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be rare. It's a rare feature. So you start with 5 effect points. It does take an action, so it's not a free action or anything like that. So we still have those 5 effect points. It's not delayed or dooming, and it does not have a condition or requirement to start up. Because it deals area damage, this is a consideration. Do I want it to do 50%, 75%, 100%, whatever, right? And this, I'm using this column because it is that damage or half on save. And to determine the type of damage I can do, I first honestly need to determine the terrain conditions, or the change to terrain that is brought upon by this feature. It's a Wall of Ice. So if you look at all these possibilities, the one that I thought was probably the best for this is impassable. That's just basically why he's going to use it, is to create an impassable region. It does damage to creatures that are in that impassable line initially and when they break through. But there's nothing really that fits very well with that, so I'm kind of fudging that a little bit. But to get a rare feature like this, that's going to cost 4 right there. And then I want to do damage. I only have 5 points to spend, so I've already spent 4. So all I could do is this line right here. So I'm only going to do 50% damage with this thing. Boo-hoo. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. Let's go back and let's change this to 50% damage so we get the proper dice, a 6d6. So I'm changing that here. Let's see, it's 3 times 7, 21 points. I do math out loud. Also, you're going to have to change the DC. I'm going to change this to match the DC of the thing up here that I put, which was the Chilling Strike, DC 19. All right, 19 right there. And let me copy this because I'm going to paste it down below and we'll be ready to go. All right, and so now I'm going to save them, turn them off, turn them back on so I can see the changes, and you can see that is beautifully done. Very nice. Yeah, that's how the Creature Crafter, I used to call this the Creature Crafter before I found Giphy documentation. His is much better than what I was building. So there you go. There you have it. There's a lot to be fixed within this, but probably the biggest and best feature is the JSON export on it. In the end, if you want to make a different creature, you can just come back over to this bad boy right here, scroll all the way up and clear the values. Click, and they are gone, and we're reset. If you do have any questions or helpful pieces of advice, I would super appreciate it. So let me know, and I can incorporate something if it's possible. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.